Try jiggling the handle.
Okay, we're live now. Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 109 of the Self-Publishing Roundtable, the podcast for indie authors by indie authors, where we discuss today's topics and issues that matter to the business of the self-published author. I am your moderator, Wade Finnegan, and I'm glad to be back. With me tonight is Michelle Reed.
Hello.
Xavier Granville.
Hello, internets.
And soon to be in the door will be Liam Kingman. Liam is a little stuck in traffic, but he'll be here shortly. Our special guest tonight is Derek Murphy. Now, you may have seen Derek around the internets for his cool book cover designs and things. He's been in the self-publishing industry for quite some while. But he's switching gears a little bit and doing some of his own fiction writing. And along with that, he is really generously trying to help out other authors, building platforms and things like that. You can check his website out at creativeindie.com, and he doesn't believe in the starving artist analogy. He wants to help us all make money, so that's why we invited Derek on. So, Derek, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Sure, thanks for having me on. It's fun to finally be here. How's everybody doing?
It's Thursday night. I'm always doing well on Thursday nights. I always tell my family I love this. I love coming home Thursdays and doing this. So, so let's start off a little bit, Derek. Talking a little bit about your journey and why you decided to do this like creative indie stuff and talk about helping authors with their platform and such.
Sure. Mostly I was trying to be a fine artist for a while. I went to Italy and I studied art, and then I got my master's and PhD in literature, so I've been writing books for a while. But when I was just, the main thing about creativity is I was just focused on kind of making my own shit and producing my own shit and then trying to market it, trying to get other people to buy the shit that I want to make. And that's hard, that's frustrating and challenging, and that's why there's this mythology of a starving artist, is because we also tell artists and creative people you have to listen to your voice, your intuition, you have to shut out the market, don't worry about who's going to buy it. So a lot of creative people are producing this stuff that they think is really cool, but there's no market for it. And then they just try to sell it, and nobody wants what they've made. And artists and writers are really skeptical about turning that around and thinking about the audience first and making products that the audience is going to want, which is the easy way to do business. I think there can be a balance there, and I think it's smart for creative people to focus on making a little bit of money first so that you free up your time, and then you can go back and work on the meaningful stuff you really want to do.
I think that sounds like a good idea, because you said start with making money.
It's a decent idea, but it's funny how resistant people are to it, because everybody loves Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art, and in that book, and a lot of books like it, he says, if you think about how people are going to receive the work, then you are selling out. You're a hack, and you shouldn't do that. So a lot of creative people, they don't want to think about that idea, or they think that's a terrible, blasphemous idea because it goes against their kind of belief about creativity. So it's not easy to get them to shift their minds and think about trying to make some money.
Isn't that the ultimate goal for a lot of us, though?
That's a lot of authors. They say, of course, they want to make money. They want to be bestsellers. They want people to like their books. But when they're writing the books, it depends kind of where you are in self-publishing. If you guys are more experienced, if you've been writing or you've got a couple books out, you kind of play around and then you're like, okay, that was fun. What else can I write that can make more money? Because you kind of get the system. But a lot of authors are still working on their first book, and they're just trying to finish their book, and they're not really ready to think about what can I write that can sell.
Right.
So along that lines, then, let's go ahead and jump right into this. What would you say would be the first steps for beginning authors? Because a lot of our audience is that way. What would be some of the first steps that you would suggest they take?
The hard thing is, if you're working on your first book, a lot of authors get stuck with the first book because it's the one they care the most about, and they don't have a lot of experience, and they've probably been working on it for like 5 years. So it's probably this massive collection of scenes that they just can't ever put together and edit. and you don't want to get stuck behind that first book. There's two factors. One, you've been writing it a long time, and two, you care too much about it. So if you feel like you're stuck with that first one, I'd focus on what can I write that's fun and short, that's like 15,000 words that I could publish? Like, what can I finish this month and publish so that I have that experience of finishing something? Because with short stories, you don't have to get to the end. You don't have to have a complicated novel. You can just say, I want to write, 5 really interesting scenes with good characters and end on a cliffhanger, and that's it. But that's the kind of thing you can do. And if you go into it thinking, this is just for fun, this is for practice, it kind of frees you up to just get it done and not worry about making it perfect. And I think that's a really good experience. And I would suggest doing a few of those, and then maybe doing a few full-length novels, and then maybe going back to the one you really care about, the one you're passionate about. Go back to it when you're a better writer and you have some experience.
That's what I don't know if you mentioned, because I was talking to John and I missed part of that, but I was telling Wade to do a pen name. Like, I have any business telling anybody anything because I've been gone for like 6 weeks. But that way, when he's...
You can always tell me, Michelle. You can always tell me something.
So that way, when you're ready to do your more serious whatever, your life's work, you can do that under your real name and be like, look, I did this thing. And I tried all these other things first under something else.
You know what, Michelle? I never thought about it that way, too, the idea of just doing it, because that way it's under the pen name and it's just practice.
Exactly.
That's also why I'm going to try to write some erotica, and there's several reasons. One is that erotica sells so well, and it's nice to make some money. But the kind of cool thing about erotica is that different genres, readers have different expectations of the writing quality. So if you're writing like science fiction, readers expect better writing than if you're writing young adult paranormal romance. So it's easier if you're starting out to write in genres where the reader's expectations of the writing quality is lower, so you can just focus on story. And with erotica, there's almost no story. It's just a few scenes and some sex. So if you try to write erotica and you write a pen name, you don't really have to give a shit about what you're writing, which frees you up to just write anything and publish it, which I think is a liberating. Like, for me, I haven't published any fiction yet, so I still have a lot of hurdles to overcome. But besides like the full-length stuff that I'm working on, which I'll have my name on it, I'll also do some very short erotica that can be really, really bad, but it's experience and it gives me confidence because I can write stuff and put it out. But I'll use a pen name because that's a very different audience.
Yeah. And I would think it would help keep everything separate, business-wise as well.
Yeah, it depends what, like, sometimes it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a high school science teacher and you write science fiction, I think that would be cool. Like, that shouldn't, matter. But, like, I used to do a lot of philosophy and mythology and history of religion stuff, and a lot of that stuff is kind of controversial. So I have 2 Amazon accounts under Derek Murphy that have different books because those books are for very different audiences, and I know that some of my audience wouldn't like those other books. So I mean, I don't hide it, but I try not to make it obvious because you can't. Like, I see some authors, they put up a website and they have like children's books, and then they have erotica, and then they have nonfiction business stuff, and then they have services, and they have everything on one site. When you're selling anything to any audience, you have to customize your pitch to appeal to that audience, and you can't distract them with a bunch of other stuff. So the pen name is part of that.
Interesting.
I totally agree.
Okay, so when you start this out too, are you thinking about like setting up, like, let's talk a little more about platform, because you're saying kind of preset things up. So are you talking about trying to get the mailing list and all that stuff before you publish, and like blogs and stuff like that? So what do you think about there?
I am. I know most authors don't, and they try to set up an author platform after the first book is out. That's okay if you know how to do it, but author platforms generally take time, especially if because the way I look at author platforms is I want to build content on a blog that's going to bring in natural Google traffic so that when people are searching for stuff, they find my website without me doing any work. And that kind of stuff takes quite a bit of time because Google doesn't, if you just throw a blog up, Google won't trust your blog if it's too new. So they care how old it is and also how many other sites are pointing back to you. So you can start a blog like a year early and put some content on it, and it will grow for a year so that when you publish your book, you've already got some traffic coming to your site. And you can also put up a nice opt-in offer on your site. Like even if you made like basically a landing page, but maybe you have 5 really good articles and then sign up to get the free offer. You can be building your email list for a long time before your first book is done. With just for fiction, usually it's like a short story. The challenge for fiction authors is readers won't want what you have if they haven't read your writing. So if you offer a free short story or you offer a free book and they're not already fans, they don't want it. They don't care. It works really well if they've bought your book and they liked it. Like if you have a book that's perma-free on Amazon and then you have another short story on your website that they can sign up for, that works really well. If you're trying to do it before you have any fiction, it's harder. But for example, something easy I could do on my blog, if I'm writing for young adult authors, I could put up something like the 25 best young adult author or young adult books of 2015 and my thoughts about them, or something that like is just going to appeal to those readers, or something that's really going to attract those readers. It's harder for readers. Like what I'm going to do for my giveaway is just I'm going to a young adult conference in Charleston in November. It's huge, so there's like 60 best-selling young adult authors. I'll just get as many signed copies of books as I can, and I'll give them all away as one package giveaway. So I'll have like 20 signed books by best-selling authors that you can win, and that'll be a giveaway to build my list. And I can run that. I mean, readers want those books, and those readers are probably going to be the right audience for me later. So it doesn't necessarily mean I can sell them my book, but if I build that relationship the right way, if I send them a few good emails that they open and they like, I can warm them up so that when I have a book ready, I can put my book in front of them and like I have that audience ready to go.
Good idea. I like that idea of the giveaway to.
I've seen it. It's getting more popular now. I know the Sean Platt and Write, Publish, Repeat guys did it recently where they gave away like 10 self-publishing books. I saw another girl doing it. I forget who. It's becoming more common to give away like 10 books because you can just buy 10 books on Amazon that appeal to your readers and give it away, and it costs you like $100, but you can build up a list of 1,000 that way pretty easily.
Yeah, good point.
Is that a good quality 1,000, or is that just people there for a free giveaway, or how do you plan on having them stick around?
The trick is you want to give something that doesn't appeal to everybody. I see a lot of fiction authors who give away a Kindle, but a Kindle is going to appeal to everybody, and so they don't want your stuff. But like if I'm giving away 10 books about self-editing your novel, I know everybody who signs up is writing novels and they're interested in editing, like they're having trouble with editing. So that's a very specific group of people that I could send, like the way to warm up a list, once you have them on your list, you have to send a lot of free content. So I might, if I was looking for editing clients for an editing company, I'd have 10 books, they'd sign up, then I'd send them, like every week I'd send them one really in-depth email about one topic, like how to fix this common writing problem that all authors have. I'd send them 10 or 20 of those every week so that they get used to opening my emails and they know that I'm just giving them really good content, and they kind of find out who I am. I could show them a couple of the other articles I've written to get them back to my websites. After they get to know you, if they know that you're an editor, then when they need an editor, you're going to be on the radar because people are going to buy from whoever they know. So if you're the guy who's been emailing them for 10 weeks, and they're looking for an editor, they'll go to you first. And so for fiction, it's harder. I'd have to keep, like if I was just getting teens who are interested in young adult fiction, I'd have to keep giving them good quality information that they like, that's interesting and relevant. And then, like I can't just say, well, I probably could say, here's a book you might like, or I could say every week I could say, here's 10 books that you might like. I could do it every week or every month. I could do like a monthly roundup. And the cool thing about having a list like that is I could use my Amazon affiliate link. So every month I could send out top 10 recommended books with affiliate links to a couple thousand people, and I'll make money on all the people who buy any of those books. I'll be making a little bit of money.
Right.
But then I could, when my book is out, I could say, here's your 10 of the month, and by the way, you might like my book as number 11, which is, just another thing. It can't be the only thing that you're offering, but if they're used to receiving your content, and it's the same kind of thing, like I'm recommending young adult fiction books, and then that's what I write. So it's not really a stretch to recommend it to them.
Okay, so forgive me if I've missed this because I have to keep turning off my sound so I can cough and try not to fart. But are you gonna do like a podcast or show or something that's like rallies people around you, or are you just gonna have website content for all of these things?
I generally, it's different. I like website traffic. I like content to bring in traffic. So if I'm writing blog posts, like the easy way to get fiction readers is to write book reviews, because like science fiction readers are always looking for book reviews of the best science fiction books of June 2015. So if you write that post every month and build your list that way, that's a really easy thing to do to build the right kind of audience for your books. Mm-hmm. And I like having that kind of content that Google sends me traffic, so I don't have to actively market. But if you're building a platform, people like to, I had a hard time doing videos. It was really difficult for me to feel comfortable talking on video, and it took me like a year to get over that. I finally, I forced myself to do like a few hundred of them, and now I'm better. At least I don't have the fear anymore. Videos are great because people can watch your video for 5 minutes and they feel like they know you. So they're much more likely to support you in bigger ways. So like if you want to make fans, on the one hand, like people buy your fiction books, they have to like them to share them. But if people like you, if you put out a lot of videos and people like you as a person because they've watched your videos, there's a much greater chance they'll take more action to support you. So if you want to build that kind of like raving support system or platform, I think videos are important, or sound is important. I won't do a podcast. I just found Blab. Have you heard of Blab?
Mm-mm.
We just started using a little bit for the Roundtable the other day, actually. So yeah. It's
kind of cool. It's kind of like, I never really got into Google Hangouts, but Blab is just a little bit easier for me. So I'm gonna do it a lot. Like in October, I'm gonna try to schedule a ton of interviews. Because part of what you can do, even if I'm building a young adult platform, I could try to interview young adult authors for various reasons. It's kind of hard to reach out to those, huge New York Times bestsellers, but if you're building the right kind of platform, or if you're doing something really interesting, you can give it a shot and reach out and see if you can get a short interview, or at least get them to share or retweet something you're working on. I don't know. So I won't do podcasting. I do a lot of videos, like YouTube videos. I'm going to use Blab to make videos to build courses, because I'm building these courses where I need to interview people to get expert opinions. But for fiction traffic, I think you can focus on building a list, and that might be more powerful by doing a giveaway, because that's pretty easy, and there's no time involvement. Like, it costs a little bit of money, but you don't put much time into it.
Good point. I just want to give a quick shout out. Liam is in the house now. Hey, Liam.
Hey, how's it going? Finally made it.
Well, somebody's got to work for a living once in a while, right? So we all can't just sit around and eat Oreos and type a few words. So no, Xavier, I'm not looking at you at all.
I don't eat Oreos.
Oh, that's right, you don't.
No.
Oreos are for suckers.
My wife bought a big package of strawberry flavored Oreos, which is now they have all these flavors.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Mind
That's
blown.
disgusting.
it's
That's gross.
I would for some reason like when you're eating a normal Oreo, you feel like this is kind of gross. I shouldn't be eating this, but
Right.
with the flavors, you're just trying a new experience. So you're just testing out things you haven't tried before, so you don't feel as guilty.
I always tell my kids when they're eating them, I'm like, you're eating Crisco, and then I just walk out of the room. I'm like, "Wiener Crisco."
Speaking of YouTube videos, there's a guy that works for Machinima that's like one of those bigger game review companies and what have you. But one of his side things is that he reviews Oreos.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not joking with like
You're not
whatsoever.
joking. It's a real thing.
Like, yeah, and he does like he said, Derek. Like there are so many different flavors of Oreos, whether it be a Costco brand or a Target brand Oreo or a holiday promotion Oreo. So he's reviewed all of them, at least to my knowledge, the ones that I've ever seen, and he takes it very seriously.
That's awesome. Michelle, I bet if we got a Snickers flavored Oreo, you'd eat those.
What? No, how about I just eat some Snickers? I could review Snickers for a living. Why am I even here? I gotta go, guys.
All right, I'm hogging the questions. Xavier, shoot, you got a question?
Yeah. So you've talked about entering to the pen name market with things like erotica or kind of stuff that you wouldn't want to attach to your personal branding or name. Is there any other types of genres that you're thinking of pursuing that you wouldn't really want to be kind of attaching to the one main brand that you're working on?
No, not so much. I think I'm not a big fan of pen names because I think it's important. There's a difference between people who read your books and they'll recommend your books and buy more books, and people who are really fans who will follow you, and when you have something new out, like they'll be evangelists. They'll enthusiastically share you with everybody. Generally, like it's different because there's this stardom kind of thing. So with traditional best-selling authors, they don't need to do very much to generate that kind of interaction. Like they don't really have to interact with fans, and fans will still respond to them that way because they're kind of like stars. But if you're self-published or if you're an indie author, we don't quite have that same star appeal. So it's harder to get people to just really support us. The solution is by being authentic and building a real relationship, and that's much harder to do if you're using a pen name, because then people don't know if they're really interacting with you, or is that your real picture, or even just responding to email, and they'll be like, you're not the person that I thought you were because you have a different name. It can be kind of weird. So it's not. I mean, I understand why sometimes it's the right move. For some genres, and I think books can sell themselves without really focusing on building an author platform, but we kind of need every advantage we can get, and it's the multiplication of all these little advantages that make some indie authors really successful, and so you want to do what you can to not make things harder for yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I've often said that personally, that no matter how many kinds of branding you can attack the market with, whatever type of strategy it is that you're going to use, ultimately selling yourself is going to be the easiest thing out of it all, because that's ultimately the closest thing to you is yourself. And so as much as our products are extensions of our creative genius or what have you, ultimately selling yourself as a genuine person and a personality ultimately is going to be the make or break thing. If people don't like you as a person, they're probably not going to want to buy your book.
Yep. And it's kind of tricky. Like I have to think now about. I was never focused on. I wasn't careful about my author platform because I was making money with client services and I get traffic, so I don't really have to do any marketing. But now I'm trying to make money from my books, which is different. So I need people to like me more than maybe I've cared about in the past. So everything I do now, like when I'm sending out an email to a lot of people, it doesn't matter what I'm talking about or what I'm selling or recommending. The main thing is like how they feel about me. How does this email make them feel about me? That's more important than whatever I'm talking about. So I have to be a little, like on the one hand, you want to be really authentic and honest and real. On the other hand, you're responsible for how people feel about you by how you're, like what kind of story you're telling. Because there's a million things you could tell about yourself, but it's your job to craft your kind of author biography, your story in a way that appeals with people and to represent yourself a certain way in the way that is going to kind of make people feel good about you. So it's part of it's branding and positioning. And like you want to be really real, but you also don't want to, I don't know, reveal too much. You don't want to be annoying. You've got to be aware of how you come across to other people.
What if you're a terrible person? Do you like hire someone to create an image, like a stylist?
You could. I kind of feel like a
Yeah,
lot
what
of
if you were a
authors.
monster?
I think you could. I think you can get away, like especially for a lot of fiction, you can be a bad boy or you can be an asshole, and you can still get a lot of followers. I mean, you can be Tucker Max and be a total asshole and get tons of followers because he's still very authentic and he tells funny stories and
I'm
people
gonna
like
go
his
look him up.
content. Do you know Tucker Max?
No, I'm going to look him up.
He wrote a book like They
That's-
Serve Beer in Hell or something, but basically it's like him sleeping with all these women and being an asshole. Um, it was put in Urban Outfitters. He built up a big platform. Now he's those books which were kind of like just his not varsity,
Oh my
frat
goodness.
boy party stories have become bestsellers, and now he built up this program that's book in a box where other entrepreneurs or business people who want a book but don't want to take the time to write a book, they'll just, like his team, Tucker Max built a team where they will just interview somebody, take the notes, turn it into a book, design it and publish it so that the person doesn't really have to do anything and they just have a book, which is good for platform building. So he wasn't in self-publishing at all, but now he's kind of built a
No,
business
wait
around
just
helping
a
people
damn
publish
minute.
books.
That's just ghostwriting.
Yeah,
That's called
basically.
that. Yeah.
It's
friends
a ghostwriting with a package.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been on SPP before too, and he is an interesting character. He's very interesting to listen to. I think he does a good interview, and what you talked about earlier, Derek, about the YouTube and being able to make a connection with somebody quicker when you're watching them on video. I do totally relate to that. It's funny how you feel like, oh, I know that person now, when you really don't. But yeah, and I think Tucker, he knows his audience, and that's actually a good segue for me because I mean, some genres lend to a really, not me, really easy, but easier target audience. Some do not. So what would you say, or what are you trying to do besides the giveaways to find audience? How do you work on that?
When you want to get really targeted, I'd use advertising. So I'll use Facebook advertising and target young adult. The easiest way to do it, I mean, if you want to get really specific, I'm writing a mermaid romance novel. That's like my first young adult novel. And so I can find, do you know Kira Cass? Kira Cass wrote The Selection, I think, and some really big young adult fiction. She self-published a book a few years ago about mermaids that now that she's a big, huge best-selling author, her publishing company is republishing that early book. So in like, I think in like January or something, it's coming out. There's a lot of mermaid books now that are really popular, but so this big-name author is going to have a book out about mermaids. The other one is, Amanda Hawking? Amanda Hawking has a series about mermaids. So I can go on Facebook and I can target people who liked this book by Amanda Hawking. And then my ad can read, did you like this book by Amanda Hawking? Then you might like my book. And then you link to your book. Like, it's a very specific ad that's very, like, it's appealing to exactly the right people, and they're going to feel like the ad is just talking to them, so you're going to see more traction, more conversion. But that's not that hard to do. It doesn't cost very much to start on Facebook advertising. It's hard to make it pay unless you're doing like with Mark Dawson, where you have a whole series, and the first one is free, and then you have a funnel, and you get them on your email list. For me, like I'm only going to have the one book. It's going to be a while until I can really spend a lot of money on Facebook advertising and see a result, see a payback. But for reaching people, that's an easy thing to do.
Okay.
You can also, the other thing is you have to find out where they are. So I mean, there's probably 20 or 30 young adult book review websites that get all the traffic. They get most of the traffic. So I need to know what websites those are, and I have to find a way to get my content on those websites, which can be tricky, but there are ways to do it. You can see if they have advertising, or you can write a guest post about something, but you want to try to be on those websites where the readers are going to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I know Demelza Calder will be happy from the website that you talked about mermaids now, because she was asking about mermaids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you were pimping mermaids on your site or something like that. So she wanted to know why it was going on. So that's why.
Oh yeah, and
I think it's like the
thunderclap, right?
next big thing.
Yeah, mermaid next big thing. Yeah. What'd you say, Xavier, on that?
Well, and Derek has like a thunderclap and stuff like that for what is it, for Save the Manatees or something like that.
It's
what's all that about?
It's a project that may or may not work out. We'll see how it goes. I've heard different results. Fiction writers are kind of down on Thunderclap. Thunderclap is basically you set up a project, and instead of asking everybody to share it when it goes live, you can set it up like 2 months in advance and try to get people to agree to share it when the date comes. So you have a lot of time to get people to sign up, and they're just agreeing to send like one tweet out. So if you do it right, on the day of your launch, you can get a lot of people tweeting your book at the same time, more than you would get if you just asked everybody to share it like on the day of the launch. I don't think it's worked so well for fiction authors yet. I have some nonfiction author friends who have used it very well, and it's worked pretty well. So I'm going to see how it'll work out. And the difference is I'm not using it to promote my book launch. I'm basically saying, if I get 100,000 free downloads during my book launch, I'll give away $1,000 to Greenpeace to save manatee and clean up the oceans and stuff. So it's more of a non-profit feel than it is a like self-publishing, promoting my own book feel, which may or may not. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I think people will be more likely to at least take notice and be like, "What's this about?" because it's different. But we'll see how it goes.
Interesting. Okay. Liam, did you have a question? I feel like I know you rushed in, but
I'm just getting caught up on everything. I've had a long day.
Okay, no worries. Derek, I know you've done lots of book cover design over time. Want to give us some insights on what you think makes for a good cover, especially for indies that are on a limited budget?
Sure. I don't think the budget is the problem. I think you can get very cheap covers. I think you can make your own covers, and they can be good. The problem is indie authors not knowing anything about book cover design. And it's not just not knowing about design. It's specifically what book covers are for and what they do. Book covers are packaging to attract readers to read your book summary. They're not to sell the book, because what indie authors want to do is represent everything in their book, like the whole thing. They want to represent it symbolically with one really good scene that's like the core of the story, and they want to communicate all of this stuff. They want to communicate. I get all these clients who say, I want this background and this character wearing these clothes, gesturing this way to this other character with this expression on their face, which is stuff that it's impossible to do with stock photography. And even if you do it really well, it's not going to make a good cover because it's too detailed, it's too small, and readers don't know what any of it means because they haven't read the book yet. So they have no idea what all this stuff symbolizes if they haven't read the book. The book cover just has to attract them to read the description, and then they'll make a purchasing decision based on whether or not they like the description. But it's got to stop them and attract them first. Most indie authors, they're not trying to make something simple that attracts readers and gets them to read the description. They're trying to create this extension of their art. And I think it's also, I was talking about editing recently, it's hard also as an editor because an editor's job is to take your story and turn it into a product and make it better so that it will satisfy readers or readers will be happy with it. Um, but some authors, they care too much about their book and they're not willing to listen to editors when they tell them to make changes because they're not willing to turn it into a product. It's still their passion, their baby. Like they wrote it just how they want it to be. And the mistake a lot of indie authors make is thinking that your book cover design is kind of part of your art, because indie authors, they want to take over and they want the book cover design. Like they're creative people, they want to get involved, they want to dictate they want to dictate what they're telling to readers about the book, and that doesn't matter. It only matters if readers are attracted to the cover or not. So I think indie authors, I think they're most of the time self-sabotaging themselves. And it's not because they're not good at design. It's not because they don't have any money. It's just their thinking about book cover design is ineffectual, and I don't want to say they're against learning because I think people have. I put out a lot of content for a long time about book cover design, and people seem to be pretty happy with it and they like it. They like learning about it. But when they start out from scratch, every indie author makes the same mistakes. And until they start thinking, I wonder what my book cover should be, like I wonder how I can sell more books, I wonder if there's something wrong with the book cover that I made by myself, it's not until they start researching book cover design that they're going to learn something. And most authors, they don't start researching. They just start with a blank canvas and they just say, I'm going to make whatever I think represents the book.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think getting so attached to things and wanting it to look perfect. It's a tough. It is tough to let go, though. I mean, I don't want to discount people on that because it is, especially when one of the things I think that attracts a lot of indie authors is that they have that control, right? There's not a publishing house telling them what, and so they go to people and go, oh, I want it this way, I want it this way, but not might be in their best interest.
Yep, I understand they want the control. I want to help them sell more books because ultimately their goal isn't to have a cover that they like. Like they feel like they care a lot about how what the cover says about the story, but that's not their main goal. They want to connect with readers. They want readers to buy their book. They want to sell more books. That's more important to them than the cover. I think if they maybe not, but I think if they really think about it, if they have to choose between a cover they like and selling more books, they'll probably choose selling more books. Or if they don't want to sell more books, that's fine. They should just keep writing and not worry about book marketing or sales. But I think most authors, even if they say they don't want to sell more books, they get to a point where they're tired of not selling books, and then they want to make changes.
Yeah, that's true. When they get tired of not selling books, that's right. At some point, they really.
And it's really hard with the first book. I mean, with the first book, they want to control everything. They'll spend a lot of time on the cover, and that's hard. That's why, like on my website, I put something that said, I generally work with first-time authors just because experienced authors are going to be more willing to listen to me when I tell them, like, this book cover is going to sell more books. They'll say, okay, let's use it because I want to sell more books. First-time authors won't always do that. And so I get a lot of clients where we'll work together on a cover for 3 months, but they don't know what they want. So they keep suggesting other ideas, and they never, like, nothing really feels like it's the thing that they want to represent their book. And often I'll have to refund them because I give refunds if they don't use my cover, then I refund them. So since January, I've probably had, like, I don't know, 20% of my clients I've refunded just because I can't convince them to use a cover that's going to sell the book. And so we had to part ways because they wanted something else that they thought represented their book better that I wasn't willing to do because I don't like to do ugly covers that won't sell books.
20%. Wow, that's a pretty big percentage for refunds. I know in our previous conversations you talked a little bit too about formatting and some formatting issues. So you do formatting as well, or you have in the past?
I have. I learned how. I still outsource it because I don't like to do it. It's such a pain in the ass to do. Um, I put up a lot of. I have a site that's DIYBookFormats.com, and I put up a lot of training videos and a lot of free templates. And I have an online automatic book conversion tool, so you can upload your Word file and it'll turn it into a MOBI and an EPUB. So I built a lot of tools that are pretty cool to make it easier, but I don't like to do the formatting myself. And even with all the tools that I put out, I still say, if you have $100, pay someone else to do it, because you're going to spend several weeks learning how to do it, unless you're publishing tons of books all the time, and then you should learn how to do it yourself. But if this is just one book, somebody else is going to do a better job than you will do, and it's going to take you a long time to do it. It's not really worth it unless you really want to learn how to do book formatting.
Okay. Any common mistakes that you see in that like people screw up all the time?
No, I mean, common things are when people format in Word, they don't know that they're supposed to use the H1 tags, the heading tags for the chapters. So like if you set up your book the right way, you go through every chapter heading, you have to highlight it and choose a word style, which is heading 1, heading 2, so that it shows up on the table of contents, so that when you convert it to an EPUB or a MOBI file, the table of contents is all finished. And also setting section breaks after each chapter. You can use like a page break so that chapter pages, they don't have a heading or a footing like page numbers. It's usually just kind of a blank page with just the chapter number, and all the other pages, they have the heading and then the page number on the bottom. So it's, I mean, little things, but if you're formatting your first book, you don't know that stuff. You don't know how it's supposed to look, or even if you pick up a book off the shelf, you don't know how to do those things. So you have to learn how to use Word if you're using Word. I like Word for formatting. InDesign, Adobe InDesign is better for formatting, but it's harder to learn. And I like, if people pay me to do formatting, I'll do it in Adobe InDesign, but then they can't make changes. And there's always changes, so I'll get, a list of revisions. It might be 50 revisions that they found, typos or things they want to change after the fact that I have to go through and fix, which is why I don't like doing formatting, because it's kind of like with covers. When it's done, they like it, it's visual, and there's less things on the cover. Like they'll say, change this little thing or fix this thing, but with formatting, it can be a long list of changes that you have to update.
Good, good. Xavier, is there any questions from the site that I've been missing? Have you been checking? I was gonna pick on Michelle, but we lost her. So.
Yeah, there was one. Oh no, that was a question for Michelle. Darn it!
All right, listeners, you guys have
again.
questions. I know we don't probably have time enough to cover it all, but one thing too I wanted to say.
You talked about like formatting in Word. Do you not use Scrivener at all, or do you not recommend Scrivener?
The reason I don't recommend Scrivener is for print formatting. You don't have as much control over the spacing and the fonts. So it's fine for putting something together quickly and exporting it in Word. The thing that people say they like most about Scrivener is that you can set up sections and then you can drag and drop the sections around. But you can do that in Microsoft Word. It's just people don't really know how to do that because they're not using Word right. So, I mean, it's also nice to use Scrivener if you're plotting out your novel and you have a lot of notes and you just want to keep organized, then that's fine. And you can convert to EPUB. That's really easy. But like, I have an automatic tool that converts to EPUB that works just as well. So I don't see a lot of benefits in Scrivener personally. I've tried to use it for a while. What I would like to do, because I think there's a way that I can get in, kind of go underneath the surface of Scrivener and save some templates with some built-in fonts and styles. I haven't played enough with it. If that's possible, because I'm going to make some for DIY
it's possible.
formats. You may know more about it. I know that you can set up, to a certain extent, you can set up some styles for some things. I don't know,
Yeah.
Xavier, do you know? Tell me more
No,
about Scrivener.
well, I know Matt Morris definitely would be able to tell you about that. He's definitely tweaked things out as far as using Scrivener. I tend to use most of my formatting now in InDesign, um, for paperback at least, but for Scrivener, I'll use that predominantly for my digital outputs, so for EPUB and for Mobi. Um, and I do think that no matter what, it comes down to the layer of how much you're really going to be going into the formatting. So, there's the things of the uppercase just for the first three letters of each chapter. You can do that in Scrivener. There's ways around all those little things. Like you said, it just is a matter of how much time do you want to spend learning the software, and ultimately, if Scrivener is the software that you are predominantly going to be using, you might as well learn a trick or two.
Yep. I'd love to be able to finish some templates so that people could just open my templates in Scrivener and they would have styles built in. I haven't figured that out yet, but if I'm able to figure that out, I'll put those up on my site so people can use them.
Nice, nice. I know we don't have a ton of time left, and so we talked about before, we might have you back on again if schedules work out, because we'd like to pick your brain some more. But I know you've also done a little bit with some Amazon hacking, is it right? Some algorithm stuff and stuff. So maybe we could take a few minutes to touch on some of that. Whatever part you want to talk about, I guess. Kind of a really open-ended question. But
yeah, I'm not an expert Amazon hacker. I have some friends who do that better.
You're no anonymous, right?
No, I mean, I think there are some tricks you can do. I think there are some ways you can show up. It was kind of pissing me off because I have a book about book marketing, and there was one guy who had a book about book marketing that was always outranking mine, even though like I had a lower sales rank and I was selling more copies and I had more reviews. Like everything was saying that my book should have been on top, but his book was still always number one. So there are some little things, and a lot of it is just for specific keywords. So like if you search book marketing, that guy's book probably has book marketing in the title, and he has book marketing in bold, and he has book marketing in a bullet point list. Also, like you want to use it in your copy for the Amazon page, and that's kind of just setting up your description the right way. And you can use a lot of HTML tags in the KDP description box. So when you're filling out your description, you can actually, the easy way to do it is just I'll use WordPress and I'll write a post, like I'll write my description in WordPress and I'll use the editor to edit it so it looks the way I want it to look, and then I'll just go to code view and copy all of that HTML code and put it on KDP in the description box, and it'll look pretty much the same way.
Nice.
Yeah, the other stuff, I mean, a lot of the stuff is not really hacking Amazon. It's like your book should have, at the end of your books, you should be backlinking to your other books so that it makes it really easy for people to get into your next book. At the end of your books, you should have the quick link to your review this book that you can find from Amazon. So that instead of asking someone to review, you can say, review this book now, click here, and it just comes up right away. It comes straight to the forum where they can review it. Things that save a little bit of time. And also in your books, asking for reviews, because most people don't, like in the front and the back of your book, you should say, I'm an indie author and I don't get paid to write these books. If you enjoyed it, it would mean so much to me if you could take a minute to leave a honest review, whether or not you like the book. I'd appreciate your feedback. I mean, you can personalize that message, and it'll make it more likely that someone will take the time. If you convey how important it is and impress that upon them, if they like the book at all, then you'll get more reviews that way than if you don't ask. But the main thing with Amazon, like all the Amazon hacking tricks, those aren't the problems that indie authors have. So those aren't the things that they need to fix to sell more books. It's always the three things of Amazon are your book cover, or how many reviews you have, and it should be more than 10 at least to start, and the description. And almost always, when authors aren't selling a lot of books and they ask me, review my Amazon page, what's wrong with it, it's always one of those three. Their cover's not strong enough, or they don't have 10 reviews yet, or the description just isn't very compelling. Like it's okay, it tells what happens to the book, but it's not really great. And that description is only a paragraph. You can hire an editor to rewrite that description and make it really awesome, because that's important. But if nobody's reading the description, it's your book cover. And there are ways to test that to see where your problem is. But those are always the problems you have to fix first. Once you're selling consistently and you know that people are liking the books and reviewing your books, then you can start using some Amazon hacks, to boost it a little bit more.
Okay, I like that. That's good. Those three. So that's a good tip. Liam or Xavier got a question to jump in on? Anything that like I say, I don't want to hog it all.
Going back to the Facebook marketing that you talked about earlier, have you had good results with that? Because most of the people that I've talked to, advertising on Facebook has just been, for the most part, a waste of money.
Yep. Depends what they're doing. Generally, the problem is if they're marketing too broad. It's the way you word your ad, but it's also often the cover, because a lot of people, if you market anything anywhere on Facebook and you show your cover, if people don't like your cover, they're not going to click your ad. So it depends, like, are they clicking the ad and then not buying on Amazon? If that's the case, you don't have enough reviews or your description isn't very good. Like, if your cover was good enough for them to click it, that shows that they're interested. If they don't buy it, there's a problem with your Amazon page. And maybe the price is too high, maybe you didn't overcome their fears, maybe you don't have enough reviews. You have to convince them on the sales page to finish the purchase. But that's also an easy way to use Facebook advertising to tell you what's wrong with your Amazon page, because if those people aren't buying, like if you write very targeted specific ads and you put your book in front of the perfect readers and they're not buying your book, that's a problem with your sales page, because those people haven't read your book yet. They don't know if they like your book or not yet. So it's only your Amazon page. And if it's not working, you're not going to sell any books. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on marketing. So that you can spend $10 and figure out what's wrong and fix it, and then spend $10 more and tweak it a little bit more until you start seeing the right level of conversions. And also, most people who are using Facebook advertising, they're trying to sell books. So they're saying 99 cents only, and they think that's a good deal, like today only. Readers aren't interested in a 99-cent book. It's not a good enough deal. If they're not going to spend 99 cents to take a chance on a book by a new author they haven't read yet that doesn't have any reviews, it's not a good enough offer. If you use Facebook advertising for a free book that has a lot of reviews and a good description, they'll probably take a chance on it. But that'll only make money if you have more books and you can get them back in your email list, and then you can sell them more books later. So I think most authors who are using Facebook advertising, their covers aren't good enough, or their Amazon page doesn't have enough book reviews, or they're trying to sell something rather than trying to attract fans. Because Facebook advertising, to find the right fans, is great, but you have to make it really easy for them to get access to your book and read your book and see if they like it. You don't, even a 99-cent, the difference between free and 99 cents is like 10 times. So you could get 100 people to buy your book at 99 cents, or you can get 1,000 people to download it for free with the same amount of advertising. And it's so much more valuable to get those free readers, because they're going to be your champions if you can get enough of them.
I like that. Yeah, it's getting more eyeballs on it, right? More eyeballs for.
And that's, I mean, when you're starting out, a lot of authors, they're very resistant to free, to giving away books away for free or perma-free. They're terrified of that because they want to make money with their books. But if you consider all the money you spend on advertising and marketing and events and promotion, instead of spending all that money, when you give a book away for free, you're getting the same amount of reach, but instead of earning that money, you're kind of giving that money away. So there's not a big difference in the amount of money you have, because you're going to be, if you set it at 99 cents, you're going to be spending a lot of money to market your book to people, and it's not going to be very effective. So instead of spending that money, you just give away, I'm going to give away 10,000 books. And that will actually have a lot more reach and impact than if you had spent the money on advertising and marketing. So I don't feel like you're giving it away for free. I don't feel like you're losing money. It's just another way to use your funds in different ways to reach more readers. And the thing I noticed about a lot of people who are doing perma-free, there's a bunch of books on Amazon that have 500 to 1,000 reviews, which is amazing. And I'm always like, how did you do that? They are always on perma-free. And the way to, because authors always complain about it's so hard to get reviews, I can't connect with readers, I can't sell any books. If you're struggling with those things, you can put your book on perma-free and make it free for a few months and get tons of reviews and get your ranking really high. Later, you can turn it back on to $2.99 if you want to, and you'll be so much stronger if you have hundreds of reviews than you were when you had 5 reviews. And so it's just a way, like, you're not losing money, it's just smart business to start out with free if you don't have any platform.
I like it. Good savvy business.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, we're getting to the top of the hour. Do we have any lingering questions that we haven't hit Derek with yet?
There was one that came in at the last minute there from Tracy Reed, that just said, does your Amazon description and your back cover description have to be the same? And that's an interesting thought, at least as far as I think if you were in a situation where you had paperbacks available in a store, you could be doing a totally different marketing angle than you would be doing with your Amazon descriptions.
Yep, you could be. The main difference is space, because you have to be more concise with the print book because you don't have as much space. With Amazon descriptions, like most publishers, you have to choose between, do you want a lot of reviews or do you want a really good description? And a lot of traditionally published books, they only do reviews because the reviews matter more to the readers than the description, depending on the genre. But on Amazon, you don't have to make that choice. So you can have your editorial reviews on top, and then you can have the description of the book, and then you can have your author bio, which is longer. And you want, I mean, I would say the description, like the summary of your book, you're going to want that to be as good as it can be, and then it's going to be the same for print and ebook. Because like the best-selling description of your book, if you test out different versions, you'll find the one that works the best. And you're always going to be selling your book to the same readers of that genre. So they're going to, whichever description is the best is going to be the one that works. But on your print book, part of it is you have to choose how much of your description do you want to show, and how many reviews do you want to show if you have really good reviews, and also your author bio, because on Amazon you have your author bio right there, and a lot of authors will put their author bio in the back of their book, and then they'll say, I don't need it on my book cover because it's in the back of my book. But the author bio in the back of your book is for readers who have finished the book and want to know more about you. So it's a way for you to build a relationship with readers when they're done reading the book. The author bio on the back of your book cover is for people who haven't bought the book yet. So it's still sales copy. You're still putting just a sentence about you and your author picture, anything that just makes people want to buy the book. So there's two different author bios for the inside and the back of the book that should be there in a print book that most authors don't think about.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too. Or two. All right.
Me too.
You too.
We are in agreement. We like what you are talking about.
That's nice. You can't give props in Blab when someone. It's kind of fun because there's 4 different speakers, but you can give props, which looks like this. There's a little symbol. So whenever somebody says something clever, you can just give props, and that's kind of like a video game because it keeps track of who said the most clever things and how the audience is responding. So it's kind of fun to gamify it that way.
It is very confusing if you have no idea the first time that you go on Blab and you start talking, and then suddenly you're just all these random flashing things are popping up on your screen, just saying plus 20, plus 50. What is happening?
It's going to be interesting to watch how that develops, because it's kind of like chat roulette, and it's kind of like Snapchat, because you can either record the video or not record the video. So I imagine there's going to be some like X-rated adult rooms and things happening. It's going to be, and people will just be, because you can just click in and out of of those and just spend 5 seconds and seeing who's talking, what's up. It's an interesting platform. I'm excited to see what happens with it.
Indeed.
Indeed. All right. Well, Derek, I appreciate you so much coming on. It's been really interesting picking your brain and getting into some of these insights. And you've definitely have thought it through. And I think that's one of my biggest takeaways as far as, like, even though I've been doing this a long time and talking a lot, it's that logical steps, and distancing yourself from the work and thinking about how you're going to do this and stuff. So, yeah, I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing some insight. It was really, really good.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. It'll be really fun to see what actually happens when I publish and to see if all these platforms I'm building, because I'll start publishing stuff like how many sales I got, how many free downloads I got. So that's going to be the really interesting stuff, whether or not I can pull it off in the next few months.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to call that a night. I know we got some hacking going on here tonight, too, on our stuff. So interesting. I don't know where the link got through, but I'm a little busy on the control window. So. All right.
I've been selling bootleg copy.
I will remind all our live viewers, and thank you, live viewers, to leave us a review. I was gone last week, but how's iTunes doing, Xavier? Is it any better?
We'll figure it out. Don't worry, Wade.
We'll figure it out. Okay. So, yeah, and we will be doing part 3 of Building the Author Beast here coming up and some other things. So, anyway, I think it's time to end because I'm getting tired of all these people jumping in. So, Xavier, you got something to say?
Yes. Good night, internets.